Hello, listeners and watchers. It's Lisa Starr back with another episode of StarCast. This one on a more somber note. So, we've had a really crazy week in the US with the fires in Los Angeles. And my friend Kim Marshall, who is, everyone knows, a wellness industry communications expert, lives in Pacific Palisades. And he realized it would be a really great idea to get some stories out to the wellness industry about exactly what is happening there. You see the pictures on the news, but you don't understand the devastation. Some data we have at the moment, so far 24 people have lost their lives. 12,000 structures have been destroyed. Over 38,000 acres have been burned. And I looked this morning on the news, and the Palisades fire is 21% contained. It's not even fully contained. So this is quite a hell zone. So Kim Marshall, thank you for joining us in the midst of this craziness to tell your story about what's happening, life in LA as of the last week. What is today? Thursday. So this has been going on for 8 days now. How are you doing?
Yeah. Well, I've had better weeks, Lisa. I'm telling you. I want to thank you for putting these stories out because we're about wellness, and the only thing that's going to help is right now is listening, holding each other, listening, giving each other tips to keep going, wake up every day, put one foot in front of the other. I want to thank everyone who's reached out to me. It's been so beautiful. I've tried to put our personal story on LinkedIn at Marshall Plan with no A's, MRSHLLPLN. I'm putting things on LinkedIn too. That was Instagram. I'm also putting things, will be at Swell the agency, but people need to hear this because the human toll. I mean, I'm so proud that not more people died, Lisa. It's unbelievable. Our city, our beautiful oceanfront, idyllic, like Mayberry RFD, is a hellscape. It's like a Tim Burton movie, a horror movie.
We're all seeing the pictures, and I can attest to it. I've been to your house. I've been to the area many times. It is beautiful. I mean, maybe it's the best thing is that fire started in the morning and not in the middle of the night, which might have had many different consequences.
Right. So if you want to, I'll just tell you my story. Oh, and for people who don't know me, I've been in the industry since spas were born. They used to think spas were hot tubs and nobody wore yoga pants to work, And Lisa, how long have you and I known each other? 18, 12? I don't know.
Yeah, a long time. Longer than neither of us can count.
So anyway, I was first to work with Hyatt when they first launched spas. I opened the White Hello on the Big Island and then the Grand Wailea. But before that, I worked for Deborah Zake at the Golden Door in Rancho La Puerta. And before that, I worked at La Costa, which was a famous spa. And I was lucky enough to help be one of the early board members of International Spa Association, launch their media events and a lot of their media outreach, like what's hot, what's not, defining what spas were. That was fun. And then early board of Green Spa Network, which is now GSN Planet, right, Lisa? And then one of the first, if not the first, ambassador for Global Wellness Day and helped dog and launch that. So that's why this means a lot to me because I really believe that the spa industry are healing leaders, and they really need to take a leadership role in this. So I thought if they knew firsthand, they could really, put their wonderful minds and hearts together and help. So anyway, here's my story.
Yes,
Got back from visiting Calavi, wonderful Deidre Strunk, who's now there. And we did a tour and stopped to see a friend in San Diego, which is about 3 hours below where I live. Got home Monday night, still had a little suitcase stuff all packed, thank God. And I have 2 dogs, which are precious to me. My husband was at work 30 miles away. My son goes to school in New York State. So there's all our people, right? And I'm always made fun of because we live down a canyon. There's one way in, one way out. There is a fire road if you can find it. But here's what happened. I'm made fun of because I get out. If I see any smoke, I'm out. I'm evacuating myself. And I will be honest with you, I've lived there 23 years. I've never had an evacuation order, ever.
Oh, really?
We knew it was a red flag alert day. I had my coffee. I walked the dogs. I looked, without looking much, I looked out the kitchen window and saw a big plume of smoke on the mountain ridge. And I thought, no. So I 3 trips up and down the steps because I live in a 3-story townhome. loading the car, putting the dogs in the car. What do I take? Come on, think, think, think. And I had a to-go bag. I had a portable computer, and it buzzed, prepare to evacuate. By the time I got everything in, was sitting in the car, it was evacuate. And so I was the first out the driveway. I saw my neighbors packing. One yelled out to me, are you leaving now? I said, I am. The fire road, it turns out, was on fire. And so nobody could go out that way, right? So as I'm driving, and I have videos of all of it, I was listening to a podcast to try to calm down. It looked like Armageddon, big black billowing smoke on, in my view. And then when I got to the bottom of my 3-mile canyon road, it was a parking lot. And I sat there. Someone said, yeah, it's a parking lot. And a guy beside me had his window down. I said, should we pull over? Because there was fires on both sides of the hill beside me. There were buildings to get through, but there's sparks that fly. Do you understand? There are 80 to 100-mile-an-hour winds.
This comprehend.
This was a category 2, if not 3, fire hurricane. And it started up in the hills. And as they started fighting it, the winds whipped up. So at what point they got to 100, I'm not sure. But one woman said 30 minutes, houses were gone. 1 hour, the town was gone. So can you imagine, would you walk or run or drive? So we pulled up. Finally, he let me in front of him, and I couldn't move even when I was in front. So I pulled over, parked the car, got my roller bag, my purse, my 2 dogs, and took off walking. I always go to my girlfriend's house that's above the ocean, above a grocery store, right on PCH. That never has a problem because the fires are in the canyon. So I know how to get in. I was on the phone with her, but when I went on her patio, I looked up above the gym across the street, the apartment buildings were on fire. And I'm like, what? So I thought, okay. And people were evacuating that building. So I took the dog. What do you do? I live by Malibu. You know that horses and llamas and people go to the beach. So I thought, I'll go to the beach. So I go across the street, and there's TV trucks everywhere. Gladstone's restaurant, if you guys know the landmark. It wasn't open. There was smoke everywhere. Me and my dogs. I had a little surgical mask. They had no mask.
Yeah.
And here a TV crew said, can we interview you? And I said, sure, but can I hide out in your truck after? So I did the interview. I got in the truck. My phone's exploding. Of course, my son, my husband, and they were like, I think you can go back up and get the car. I see TV reports from that corner where you left it. Because then I could drive out. All the roads are closing now. All of them are parking lot. And then all of a sudden the TV crew says, nope, we're moving. You got to leave after about a half an hour. Meanwhile, a girl had come in the truck that had driven 2 hours to rescue her cat. And her cat was in her backpack. I don't know. So anyway, I go across the street because I thought, okay, now, where do I go now? So I go to the gas station that's still open on the corner. And he goes, I should be evacuated, but I can't turn people away. So we're all in there. How do we get out? Anyway, my minister's like, we can't get to you. My husband's like, walk to the car. As I look up the street where the car is, it's a black wall of smoke. And I'm on the floor going, okay, what do I do? And all of a sudden, this girl appears out of the blue with a yellow hat, animal rescue. And she said, do you want me to take you and your dogs to Santa Monica, which is like 20 minutes down the other direction? I said, yes. And she walked me along PCH, I don't know, about a quarter of a mile with the dogs and the suitcase and the whole thing to her parked truck.
Wow.
It was empty. And as we walked, the bush caught on fire on the left side of the head. And she's like, you're okay. You're okay. Anyway, we were okay. My friend picked me up and she said this one thing that really mattered. Wash your dogs. They're so full of soot and debris, right? So we did. And then we went to my girlfriend's house. But later I saw the animal rescuers post about it. And I was like, oh, I was in more danger than I thought because that's where the fires turned right and burned all of Malibu. Can you believe?
It's so lucky that you found each other.
What do you say to your lifesaver then?
Right. So, I mean, you spent that day, which was Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, I'm sure, wondering what was happening where you lived. When were you able to find out that your house has not burned?
Well, we didn't know. Everybody says, this is so funny, Lise. I don't know if you're a praying person. I don't know how many people pray that listen, but everyone says, sending you thoughts and prayers. Everyone. So when people would say that to me, I started saying, say 1534 Palisades Drive. And they're like, my son's like, oh, come on. So if the house is burned, then God doesn't love you. I'm like, no, but he says he's our father, says he'll hold our hand. Who wouldn't pull someone out of a fire if they knew where it was? So everyone I told my address, and that became the running joke. And I kept thinking it was gone because if you see that, drone shots and what, you could see smoke. And at one point, I put my head down at my girlfriend's house and I really thought it was gone. And she grabbed my hands and prayed with me. It was so beautiful. And I have to tell you, we woke up and our house was there. It's like so weird. It's not that I'm special. It's just a luck of the draw. It's a turn of the wind. Our whole street is there as well as a little community below it. But there's another part of the story. No one believes it. I left the car at the road. Everyone said they're bulldozing cars, Kim. And my husband and son were convinced our car was bulldozed. I parked it legally. And so a friend used videos of people scouting, early scouts. And he goes, I think I've seen your car. And my husband wouldn't believe it. So you guys, if you could bear with me in this story, it's so heartbreaking. The way you could get in to get medicine was to wait in line at a certain checkpoint, and the police would escort like 3 cars at a time. So my husband and I got in line at 5:30 in the morning, literally waited 5.5 hours. Someone knocked on our door because we were number 17 in this endless line. And it was a good-looking young gray-haired guy. And he goes, can I ride with you? I'm the minister from the Presbyterian Church. And I left my car and ran to get my kids at school. My wife picked us up. I just need to we're like, get in. So he did. And they only gave you literally 10 minutes. They're yelling at the police like, that's it. That's what would you grab in 10 minutes? If you could go in your house a second time, what would you grab? So he goes, I'll meet you on the corner. Anyway, as we drove through town, which was a hellscape, there's the Will Rogers State Park, which is a haven of beauty and recreation, and horses live there, burned like Gaza. The whole, as we drove down our street, our really close friends, street facing large house that they always had gatherings, they always shared everything they had, only a chimney left. Wow. Grocery stores gone, drugstores gone. The one place that was still standing, Starbucks that we always met in, was the little village that this developer, Rick Caruso, built, but he had fire retardant sprayed everywhere. And everything else was a shambles. Or like you'd go down the street. So remember, this minister's with us in the car. As we're going down the street, we come upon what is the twisted, mangled remains of his beautiful church. This church was such a community center. I mean, let me tell you, AA meetings, stroke support groups, nursery school, burned to the ground. The next block, Lutheran church, fine. Next block, Jewish temple, fine. And as we went down, it just was that over and over. And I said, sir, I am so sorry. But then just a few minutes later, he had to say that to us because my old apartment where we got married and brought our son home from the hospital, it's on a cliff over the ocean. So special. Rubble, just rubble. But when we get into our neighborhood, it was so random, like whole condominium developments, rubble. Ours up. Why? Who knows? Who knows anything? A whole street of houses gone except for 2 houses. What? I mean, it's mind-blowing. That was the hardest night for me after having seen what was. And what was so poignant is that we went to dinner by the ocean on the other side of town just to sort of clean our heads because we were very upset. And I ran into randomly one of my lovely hiking neighbors. She's French and she raised her family in my neighborhood. And she said, Kim, remember, we had 30 years of a beautiful life. We really did. And that's
a good point.
Yeah. But, it is a city of angels. So people are really rallying.
Kim, I want to bring up something that came up when you and I spoke on the phone first, I guess the night before last, because you said to me, well, I'm going to insurance, I'm going to FEMA, I have to have this and that. And I said, wait a minute, your house didn't burn down. Why do you have to do all of that?
That's right.
That's what it looks like to the outside world. Well, you have your house. So why don't you tell us what that means? Just because your house is standing doesn't mean you can live in it.
Oh, guys, people don't know this. They just want their life back to normal. We had our HOA meeting and people were like, when can we move in? Tomorrow, whatever. We have a group at our church, disaster relief. They go around the world and help people. And so they're very experienced. They had a meeting with us. Thank God. Because if you think about it, the entire town of, I don't know, in our neighborhood of 5,000 people up that road, had TVs, refrigerators, blow dryers, paint cans, automobiles with gas tanks. Think of all the stuff that burned, dry cleaners, shelving. It's in particulate matter in the air. And it just becomes, at one point, we found out that a normal danger zone for air particulates is 80. It was 400 in the Palisades at one point. And a lot of those homes were built in the 70s when they used formaldehyde and asbestos. So that's hanging in the air. And it goes in your house, gets in your carpet, your couch. I said to my girlfriend who still has a house, should our houses have burned down? Would that have been better? But then you meet people who survive fires, and that's what you hear, fire remediation. So we have Allstate insurance, and they have really been, helpful in saying what it will replace and what to do, but they can't even send an inspector till the end of February or the end of January, the beginning of February. So these people that think they're going to be in a week, and who wants to live there? I mean, another person said they're going to be cleaning up for a year, and every time they dig up the rubble, there's that stuff in the air again. I'm not doom and gloom. I'm just realistic. We're healthy people. I've had so many people in the industry reach out. How can I help? How can I help? Then now watch people, Tessa Lippman, it's about mental health and everything. And then Standy Abrams, if you know her, she's a breath expert. And she wants to send you, Lise, to put on this, podcast, a link to breathing exercises. But we put the caveat inside, only do them inside. And I'm 30 miles now, staying in Torrance, California, from the fires. And the last 2 days, I've said, I want to wear a mask in the house. And I looked it up and they said it's floating, it's moving across the city. So this is like 9/11 quality air for the city, not just downtown.
I mean, this is obviously an unprecedented event, and nobody knows what will happen next. Many businesses lost their business, or their staff did. We'll hear from some of those folks in this episode as well. Kim, what do you think the next 6 months will look like? I mean, none of you have a place to live. Like you're an itinerant moving from friend's house to friend's house.
That's right. That's right.
When do you think things might be somewhat normal?
Well, no one knows. We're every day looking. There's wonderful posts on Instagram, but Lisa, I'm dying to tell people what I've decided to do. So I'll just blurt it forth. We can only give our gifts, right? All we can do is help each other. And I know from 30 years of storytelling that when people tell their stories, they feel better. They connect. And I also know from being in the media and PR that the national media will leave here. It won't be too long, 2 weeks or so, and this will not be the headline. But people will still need to heal. So as people know, I did the Global Wellness Conversations podcast for the Global Wellness Summit for 5 years. And we've found, as everyone has seen, that medium, that audio and a little bit of video that we're doing right now allows people to really talk. So we decided to launch a podcast called LA Rising. And we're going to call it Stories of Healing, Hope, and Help for the LA fire. And let me tell you, already we've got 4 lined up, 4 interviews, and they're more heartbreaking than the next, but they also help. Like in our first episode, we interviewed the animal rescuer who saved our lives. And she even talks about tortoises, Lise. She said, tortoises are strong. They survive fires for centuries. They burrow under the ground, but then they get lost a little bit. So take a Sharpie and write your name and your phone number on your tortoise's shell.
What an idea.
And her Instagram, well, I'll give it to you to post. But anyway, she was an angel. She said she was in Malibu, has horses, and she does drills for fire to know how to load up, how to go. And she described how there's so much blame going on, but it was an unprecedented fire hurricane. You had an hour before the destruction. So also I interviewed the former president of LACMA. That's the LA County Museum of Art. And they expanded. She worked with billionaires that everyone's heard of to expand and even have the subway line come there. So she's marshaled forces for the city so many times. And she said something, Lisa, I was like, we going to record this. And then I said, oh, I am recording it. Good. But she said, listen, rebuilding is growth and growth is change. And LA is a city of change. So we have to embrace it. We're going to help each other. We felt helpless while it was happening if we weren't in the fire zone, but now we're going to have a plan of how to help. And I'll also tell you this story. This is what keeps happening, Lise. You can't. So anyway, next week we're going to launch LA Rising.
We is launching?
Well, everyone who works with me, Nova Media helped produce the Global Wellness Conversations. They're volunteering to do 4 episodes for free until we get a corporate sponsor. But I think I wrote this to you. Everyone's been talking to me about how to do it. I had 3 journalists ask me to start it. It was so nice. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I think I sent to you, I think it's called the LA Children's Trust or something.
Mhm.
We decided to help youth mental health. So whatever sponsor money we raise, a portion will go to youth mental health. And because of Now Watch and knowing people in the school system, we found the right charity. So it will support these kids who think about at least in 2020, they went through the pandemic and that terrible isolation. 4 years later, their life is burned up. Their libraries, their baseball parks, their schools, the drugstores, the grocery stores, their houses, and all their toys and all their memorabilia. Maybe there's, I don't know, skateboard trophies gone. So they're the future of LA. So we have to embrace them. So that's what we're going to do. And Nova Media is a podcast production crew that I work with all this time, and they do 30 podcasts, but they rallied. I mean, the head guy was sick with the flu, and he helped us record the first episode from his bed because he knows how he lives in Brazil. And he said, there's 2 stories in Brazil, some plane crash and this LA fire. So we must help people and get the word out. Peggy Wynn Boardman, who everyone knows, she was your partner, right?
It was my win, yes.
Win business, that you guys were the first to have spa director training schools. She had a day spa for 30 years. You guys did so much together. And she is Mensa and brilliant and an author and an artist. We use her for our graphic facilitation, strategic visioning sessions. You know what she's doing? She made our logo for LA Rising. She's building the website. She's editing the press release because all that is necessary. We've got to help people. I'm interviewing next week. You cannot believe it. Altadena across town. People will know is a historic Black town, and which means they say it's in there. Just look it up. Working class people could afford to buy houses. They helped each other. It was a little village where people biked. They had a bunny museum. What is happening? And I guess a climate scientist that worked at the Jet Propulsion Lab had been working for 10 years, living there, loving it, and trying to tell people we've got to stop with fossil fuels. We've got to stop with plastic. This is going to turn, it's a tipping point. And he wrote an article in the New York Times and just said, editorial, I left with my family because I knew disaster was coming. Anyway, I'm interviewing a girl who was raised in Altadena, ethnic background. Her dad is a truck driver, and they scraped together their pennies and bought a house. And that was everything to them. And she's married to a firefighter. He retired. They went off to be missionaries in South America. But of course, when it happened, she came home and she said her papa drove home from his job the other day on automatic pilot and pulled up in front of the house. And he goes, I forgot. We don't have a house. We're homeless. So we need to hug each other and hear these stories.
Well, I thank you for sharing yours, Kim. It sounds like there are many opportunities for listeners to contribute. I will put in the show notes a range of charities and links and things that people can reach out to do. Do you have any other advice for someone listening who would like to help?
Yes. On our podcast, we're going to have like the Wellness Minute. So for people who are stressed, who's, vagus nerve is hurting, all the alls, like I try to have lemon water every morning. I'm trying to do some stretches. I don't have my yoga mat, I don't have anything, but just tips for how to cope with this. It's a mental thing. It's PTSD. My dogs will not leave my side. I mean, I can't even leave the room. So think about that for a little kid. So we want to share anything you want. Do you know Shambhala Wellness? They're doing a sound healing. I'm just hearing so many things. They're being sent to me. Noel Asmar, just what a sweetheart, immediately want to donate masks of gratitude and compassion so people can, hold on to the mask they're wearing because we should be wearing masks. So this is a healing community, Lise. We need to help each other. Send it to me at Swellby Agency on Instagram, Kim at the Marshall. Nope, Kim at swellbyagency.com. Send me anything. I'll try to use it because we can reach across the miles around the globe. We can help each other. And you are the first step in this, Lise, and I love you for that.
Oh, well, I love you too. And I'm so glad that you still have a house, even if you can't live in it. And thank you again for really jumping on and volunteering to share your story. which will be the first of several in this episode. We all wish you the best, Kim.
Yeah, we'll be all right. It'll come around. They'll want to live here in California. The house will recover. We just have to recover each other.
All right. Love you.
Love you too, honey. Thank you.
We are here now with Catherine D'Ambrosia, who has very generously agreed to join us and talk about how the fires in LA have affected her and turned her life upside down last week. Catherine, I know we were connected through Kim Marshall, and I really thank you again for taking the time to tell my listeners and myself about your story. First, we'll extend our condolences on the situation, and then perhaps you can enlighten us on exactly what happened. I mean, last Tuesday, you had a business called Be Rosie, and now you don't. Like, walk us through what has happened in the last 10 days.
Gosh, sorry, I'm still emotionally unstable sometimes, just
Sure.
thinking about the business and the people that are involved. But, that was a quick turnaround, quick 24 hours, that had happened there. We took, it was 2019, end of 2019 when we built our business. And, we had somehow survived COVID when COVID really did us a number already. We were shut down for 10 months. And then, we thought, wow, 2025, I think this is our year. Like, we're going to do so well. I think, we have a very loving community. We have amazing, clients and a great team. And I was really excited for 2025. And it happened to be the day where I had a dental emergency, so I went to my dentist first thing in the morning. And I had a high profile client that I needed to do her nails for a video shoot. And, when I arrived, it was at 11 or at her place at the studio. She was really fragile. My client was really fragile. And I said, gosh, what's going on? And she said, don't you know the fire broke out? I said, where? And she said, in Palisades and Huntington area. And I was just like, oh no, is everyone okay? What's going on? And I remember just looking outside, and this is in Santa Monica, and we just saw smoke just billowing. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's coming all the way from Palisades to Santa Monica that quickly. And it was huge. And, I thought, okay, the only bad thing was the wind. It was just like really windy that day. But, we've had fires before. And back in the days when I opened in 2019, I remember the first or the second month, we had a fire scare in Palisades. It was in Huntington, but they were able to control that. We were closed for a couple of days because the air quality was really bad. And we were able to come back within, a few days later. And I thought, surely this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Everything will be fine. And I remember telling all the girls, go ahead, leave.
You weren't there with them. You were all.
No, I was with the client in Santa Monica and just trying to figure out, all the moving pieces. But I didn't know to what extent and how bad it was in Palisades.
How could you? Of course, sure.
Right. Except when I did call, the girls said that they just saw people running in the streets and, going, because we're right across from the Pali Elementary School, which also has been destroyed now. But, the girls said, they just saw like parents just running to the school to get their children, and I thought, wow, this is a lot more than how it was back in the days, when we first experienced it. But I thought, okay, but surely we'll be fine. We're not in a fire zone area. We're not in the hills. We're in a nice commercial and home area, and the zoned area. Well, I remember I couldn't sleep that night, so I was up until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, just watching the news and hoping and praying that everyone was fine. And then I remember in the morning when I woke up, I had texted, a neighbor of mine to see how she was doing and, to see if our business had burned down. And, at this point, I had already known that Pali Elementary was damaged, and I already knew that. The Shell gas station, or one of the gas station, I heard that it had blown up. And I heard about the Pali High. And so I thought for sure our business must have been damaged and the homes all along with it. And so I texted all my clients and so forth, and they were slowly letting me know that their homes were burned. So already I was very emotionally, under and crying. And when my friend and business friend, who had a business out right next to me, said, "Kat, everything just burned. There's nothing left." And she showed me the video, and I just was so upset, not because I lost my business, but because the whole community had just disappeared within few hours, and that was just heartbreaking. And so my heart aches, not just because my business went down. My heart aches because the whole community was just taken, from everyone. So, I mourn for that.
How many people worked at your business, Catherine?
I had 10 girls working for us, that includes the 3 receptionists and, 7 girls technicians working part-time and full-time.
So you were there for how long in that space?
So just a tiny bit over 5 years.
Uh-huh. And what happens now? I mean, what are the steps forward for you and for the business?
Well, I am thinking about the girls, because I feel so terrible that they're also displaced. It's really difficult to get another business going so quickly. So, and I'm not so sure if I'm willing to invest, a whole bunch of money right away, because obviously my funds have been burned, in the fires. So I literally I don't even have one nail polish right now or a nail file. You would think that I would have so many, but the crazy thing is I had just dropped off a big load of supplies the night before the fires. And because I knew I wasn't going to be there in the morning and I was going to come later in the afternoon, I had said to the girls, "Can you just please put all the supplies away?" I wish I had now kept it in the car.
Right. You got something.
But now I have nothing. So what I'm thinking right now is getting a mobile business going, obviously going to clients' homes. I spoke to a couple of my clients. They've been reaching out to me and asking me for, coming to their homes or wherever their temporary homes are. But as of now, I am working with a client of mine, Mia, and she's with this amazing group. It's a women's group. Sorry, for right now, I can't remember the name of the business, but they've reached out to me and asked me to do an event with them on June 30th.
That's so nice.
I know, it's so nice. And they're going to call all of their members to, pay for a service so that my girls and I can come and do an event at someone's residence, which I thought was super kind of her to think of us that way. And then I also have another person reach out because we used to do a lot of birthday parties at our location as well for little girls. And she just reached out to me this morning and said, "Kat, I've been thinking about you and wondering if you'd be able to do this event at my mother-in-law's house instead." So I thought that was super kind too. So I'm hoping that this kind of generates some kind of a mobile business so that I can offer it to my girls so that they can also go in and, make some, funds, because obviously they're suffering as well. So, and I have also given them another nail salon to go to because someone had reached out to me saying they can house them for a little while or employ them.
That's really nice. Now, I understand you have a son whose school also burned.
So my son went to Pali Elementary School, he actually he had just graduated. Now he's at Paul Revere. So he's at Paul Revere, but the Paul Revere you can't get in right now. I don't know what kind of damage there is over there, but he's doing Zoom classes right now. And I think a lot of parents are probably going through the same, chaotic schedules right now.
So I guess in a way, everybody learned how to do that in COVID, to do school on Zoom. And so it's like, okay, we've done this before.
Yeah, this is, I kind of laugh at the universe, but this is kind of COVID, 2.0, but with, I think it's maximized, it's kind of like, during COVID, the universe said, hey, can you handle a 10-month shutdown? And I somehow survived it. You have to remember that back then I had just opened my shop. It was only 3 months in or something. And I didn't have any data, right? I didn't have any data to look at it and say, hey, we can make a great business, or no, we're not doing well. Let's just shut it down. So it was the unknown gray area. And I finally decided, let's go ahead, let's open, let's do this. Let's continue. And, for 10 months we suffered, and, we didn't get a PPP loan. We did qualify for it because you had to be in business as of May 2019. You had to be operating by then. So we had a hard time. We had to pay everything that we owed to the landlord. They did give us a 50% actually off. We finally came to a conclusion, an agreement back in 2024. So, we had just paid that off, and we're thinking 2025 is going to be great. But then here's the universe saying, you handle COVID. How about this? How about I just take everything away? And
plus with COVID, you had a warning. At least, this was just no warning. No way to prepare.
There was no warning. No, nothing. Because if I had known, I would have taken everything out of my shop immediately, but universe is funny that way. And so I've been thinking about, what does this mean? And so I'm not saying that I'm not supposed to have a salon or whatever, but my path might be slightly different. So I'm just trying to think of other ways of still supporting the business, still, being in the same, arena, but maybe it looks different. Maybe it's not your same. I'm not so sure yet, brick and mortar, it's very costly. And I don't know if I have the funds to start a whole new chapter, which, costs more than $100,000 just to get your business developed and furnished and all that. So I don't know. I'm just thinking of a different way. I've been reading this book called The Pivotal Year. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
But my client had given it to me in 2024 as a Christmas gift. And, at first I thought, oh, it's a novel. Probably it's going to be a great read. And then I realized that it was a daily, like, meditational, messages. And I decided to start on January 1st, which I did. And it's been really, really mind opening, I have to say. And I highly recommend people to read it because it allows you to stop and think about maybe other avenues, that you haven't thought about, or maybe you know this message so well, but maybe you've never really applied it in your life. And so, like last night, it was about being still and being quiet, and how within those moments, you can really receive a great message, And so I really was quiet yesterday and actively listening, which is really difficult to do, by the way, actively listening, but I was actively listening, and I think that my goal has always been to help, clients and to have these connections, Be Rosie was started, and the reason why I actually named Be Rosie, I'm sorry to be skipping a little bit here and there, but the reason why I called it Be Rosie is because I was thinking about how do I marry, natural, non-toxic, message along with nail care and makeup. It's kind of hard to marry all three together. And so I thought about the most natural way of looking beautiful is when you're a child.
Mm.
You're just like running around, having a great time, and you get those beautiful, flushed, rosy cheeks. And so I thought, be joyful, be happy, be rosy.
I love that.
Thank you.
Well, the name stays with you. I'm sure you now
Yes.
go into this massive bit of FEMA and insurance and all the
Yes.
forms you have to fill out and the fight you'll have to have. But I'm glad that you're thinking about the positive opportunity that comes on the other side as well.
Right.
Have you been able to go to the space?
I tried the other day, and there were National Guards everywhere, and they did not allow anybody to go through that day. So I think if I had been there 2 days before, they said there were more laps,
Mm.
but they had told us that this was day where they were bringing cadaver dogs. So, that obviously, says a lot there. And
Right.
we just,
Don't want to
we
be there.
attempted. Yeah, we attempted a few times, and then we decided, you know what, this is serious. So yeah, we walked away. Definitely
Well,
drove away.
it sounds like one bright spot, Catherine, is the fact that you were there almost 5 years and you developed friendships and clientele that are reaching out to help you, which is a theme that we've heard throughout, is the amazing amounts of help and positive gestures that Los Angelinos are receiving from their neighbors and community, which is, I mean, it's a horrible thing to have to do it, but at least you're being given a helping hand where you can.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just very thankful for those that have, been reaching out to me, and I've also reached out to them as well. That it's very, very kind gesture, just to see how I'm doing, So my heart is full in that sense, definitely very touched.
Well, I again thank you so much for taking time out of this crazy schedule and weekend event that you're having to talk with us at Starcast. But it's really important that people hear the stories of the wellness people that were affected and all the other lives. Like, you lost your business's edifice, but then your employees, your 10 employees have no job, and it just goes on and on. We will have a list of charities at the end and in the show notes for people to contribute to. And please, everyone listening, keep Catherine D'Ambrosia and Be Rosie in your thoughts as she tries to rebuild from this terrible disaster.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this, for you to take your time to speak to me. I know that there's a lot of people that have gone through quite a bit. So thank you. Thank you again.
It's the least we can do. Thank you, Catherine. I'm sorry we had to meet under these circumstances, but our hearts and prayers are with you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. All right, now we're talking with Sparrow Harrington. Sparrow is an amazing woman, and I've, in full disclosure, been working with her for about a year and a half on her spa, the Sparrow's Nest in Pasadena. She has a very unique practice dedicated to maternity and issues with pre and postpartum pregnancy, very women centric, beautiful space. And it is in Pasadena. And Sparrow grew up in Altadena. And while the building is still standing, there are many effects from this tragedy in Los Angeles. So we thought we'd ask Sparrow to tell us a little bit about what she's seen from her part of Los Angeles. So thanks for joining us, Sparrow.
Thanks so much for that introduction, Lisa. And yeah, I'm happy to share what it looks like from my point of view.
So, Sparrow, you've been a massage therapist since 2007, but you've specialized in maternity since 2011, and you have had Sparrow's Nest in one way or another since 2016. It's now a full-fledged business, 5 treatment rooms, beautiful reception. You redid the building last year. You've got a lot of highly trained people, much beyond maternity massage. This is like things I had never heard of when I started working with you.
The Mercier
So,
therapy.
Mercier
Yeah.
therapy. I mean, the number of women that you've been able to help conceive, I mean, amazing results. And, last Tuesday, it seemed like business as usual for the most part. And then all hell breaks loose. So tell us a little bit about what the last week has been like for you there.
Yeah. So I think I first started to really tune in just as, a daughter and a sister to, people who are right in the middle of the fire zone. And It was so first of all, I think we need to back up and just say that the wind conditions, I'm not sure if everybody really understands that these were unprecedented winds that we had. And so when we heard that there was a spark of a fire in Eaton Canyon, I took it very seriously, but the speed that this went from just a little something, maybe just, evacuate your homes just to be a little bit safe, to, oh my gosh, this could be devastating. It was like, I want to say like an hour and a half.
Wow.
It was so little time. So I first kind of entered this of just like making sure that my family was even aware, because it was kind of hard. It started around like 7 p.m. was when I first heard that there was a fire, and my sister's house was the closest. And, I was on the phone with her and she sent me a picture. She's like, it's right over my house. Like I can see the flames, I can see the smoke.
Oh.
She did stay long enough to like hose everything down as best that she could. And then she got out. My mom and my brother also got out. So I really came into, this tragedy through the eyes of just making sure that my family was okay.
They
And
live
then-
in Altadena?
They live in Pasadena, but very close to the mountains, like on the border of Altadena. Yeah. My sister's house ended up being in a horseshoe of fire. My mom's house, the fire stopped about a block north of her. So they were very, very close. Yeah. And, we were also a little bit inspired by one of our family friends that we grew up next door to. After everybody had gotten out, he had gotten his kids out, his family out, and then had gone back in and was actually just hosing down his property, getting rid of all the dead leaves. And this is in, like, you needed goggles, you needed face mask. Like the intensity of the wind was insane. Like it sounded like a jet engine outside.
Unbelievable.
And so, yeah, it was under very, very tough conditions, but he stayed clearing debris that could light on fire and just putting out flames, because the wind was such a huge factor in this, that it didn't burn like a regular fire. It wasn't just going from house to house. Embers were getting blown all over the place. And so sometimes you had streets where there was every other house was gone, or like an entire block was gone except for 3 houses right in the center. It was so random the way that this was all behaving because of the wind. So he was out there and he, like, little sparks would fly and a little bush would catch on fire and he would put it right out. And he was doing that kind of for his whole block. And my sister was kind of inspired by that, and kind of against advice, she went back and started doing the same thing on her block. And because it was absolutely overwhelming for the crews, and because the Palisades fire was dealing with the same conditions on the other side of the city, most of the firefighters were already deployed over there.
Right.
And then, yeah, it was really just the winds that made this so devastating, because they also couldn't get above the fire. Nothing could fly safely. So there was no way
Oh.
they could, they
Like
couldn't put
the
anything
retardants
else
they
in.
dumped from planes, they couldn't do any of that.
Nothing could fly safely. I mean, we had up to 100-mile-an-hour winds. They can't fly in those conditions.
Mm-mm. Wow. I mean, you've lived through fires before, right? And,
Yeah.
but
I've
not
been
like
evacuated
this.
before. No,
Yeah,
nothing like this.
nothing like this. So that was what, last Tuesday?
Hmm.
And then Wednesday, it just became so massive.
Yeah. So yes, then of course it started to affect the business, and also, most of the city was without power. My business, Sparrow's Nest, was in just like this tiny small pocket of Pasadena that still had power. So I was able to, throughout, the whole time, just check the cameras and just make sure that my business was still there. It was amazing. So at every different turn, it was wonderful and a blessing, really, to be able to just have that visual and to know if we were even going to be functional, because we really were taking it day by day of like, are we going to open? How serious is this? It was hard to tell. We did end up closing, of course, for 2 days, but then we were open after that. Um, and yeah, we were just so lucky. That's all I can say.
Well,
By
the thing too is that your clients have a different time frame. I mean, they're pregnant, they're about to give birth, they want an induction massage, they can't wait till next week. They need it now. So that makes it even more difficult to manage the schedule, juggling, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us what happened to your staff? I know some of your staff members were affected.
2 of my staff members lost their homes. And then, yeah, countless clients as well were either evacuated or lost their homes. And so, of course, that's really tricky because you can't uphold, any kind of cancellation policies under those conditions. It's a true emergency. And so we had obviously lots of cancellations. And then, like you were speaking to, Lisa, that some clients needed induction massage. And so then we had other people who were looking for work. And so it was really just sort of an experiment. We didn't know what to expect or to what degree everyone would be affected. A lot of people were evacuated. And then the tricky thing was that the fire kept moving. And so even within the first couple of days, it wasn't like the people who were going to be evacuated, we would know for sure. It was kind of like every day, oh no, now this is affecting a different group of people, and those people are calling in to cancel. So we did end up going down to a more condensed working schedule, also because our main desk person was one who lost her home and she had to leave the city completely for the time being. She does plan and want to come back. And of course, we were holding her job. But until then, it was going to put a lot of strain on the team even to just function. So we were able to condense a little bit, and that has helped a lot more just to keep us up and functioning.
Where did she go? Where do you go when you lose your home? I guess family.
Yeah, she went way up north to stay with family. And to be honest, like the air quality has been so bad that I do understand people wanting to get out of it. It was really, really awful.
Is it still like that when you go outside?
It's still like you can still smell it for sure, but it's definitely improving. I mean, it I'll just give you an example. So, I was checking in on the cameras at the Nest. When you look at the cameras at my office at night, they're all grayed out because it's in night vision. And then usually by 6 a.m., everything's in full color and you can see in there. Everything was staying grayed out. Like the cameras were assuming that it was night until about like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's how much.
That's how heavy the smoke was.
Yeah.
And this is a week later that we're talking.
Yeah.
Are they giving you any indication, the authorities, of when the air should be more normal?
It's definitely getting better. I mean, even like looking outside, you can see some blue now. But I mean, the water wasn't safe to drink, to shower in, shower was debatable, but they told like, don't wash your dishes in it, don't brush your teeth,
Really?
don't drink it. So some people were like, well, should we also avoid showering and that? So it's they're figuring it out. Things are slowly getting better, but I mean, and I'm no expert on any of this, right? But I do know that there are going to be some longstanding issues with just even, the soil when you have all kinds of things that aren't meant to burn en masse like that. That goes up into the air and then, falls everywhere. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for like long term.
I'm thinking about when Chernobyl happened, right? And that radiation cloud moved all over Europe, and it wasn't kept to one area. So I don't know how they will track that or be able to measure the safety and how wide of an area. I mean, and of course, we're talking about California, where all the food we eat in America is grown there. So yeah, that's a dicey situation. So how are the clients? How are they feeling? Are they happy to find out that you're open and they can come in? Is everybody sort of tiptoeing around? What's the general mood?
Well, it's been very inspiring to see everybody want to help each other, and I mean, the amount of donations that came in, especially I think for new moms, was it was overwhelming. They had to actually stop accepting uh supplies for the time being until they could, have a chance to distribute everything. So that's been really beautiful. People are really sad and people are really shocked. I mean, this is it's just huge. Yeah.
So
So
unexpected. You wake up one day and things are fine. And then, it just reminds you how little we actually know about the future.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really a mixed bag, Lisa. But I do think that our clients are grateful that we're open. I think a lot of people need some kind of nervous system regulation, especially in pregnancy, because like we talked about, that's not a train you just step off of, it's you're on it. And so, yeah, I think that they do appreciate having the care. And then we also have people who are far away who feel a little helpless that are getting gift cards for, their friends and family to come see us, all these small things that really do make a difference.
So, Sparrow, lastly, you grew up in Altadena. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like now, the town.
It's devastated. I don't know what other word to use. Like entire blocks like of all my childhood memories are gone. My friends' homes, and their parents' homes that they've lived in their whole lives are just gone. And I mean it's like chimneys standing and, a few like block walls. I mean, it's devastated. Yeah, it's really hard to make sense of it. It just doesn't quite feel real, It feels like looks like a war zone or out of a movie. But yeah, all of these very special places that I've, grown up with and that you take for granted that they will always be there, and it's just not the same, And this is, I mean, old architecture, 100-year-old buildings. I know you're on the East Coast, so you guys have a lot more of that than we do, but for us, a
But
100-year-old
still,
house
yeah,
is
it's something.
yeah. Um, yeah, and just so many places that I grew up with. My stepmom's family started and ran the Altadena hardware store, which is, a little family-owned business. They ran it for 80 years, and they sold it to another neighbor, who also has a couple of businesses in the area, and that's gone. The little Montessori school that I went to as a child is gone. The school that my son went to is gone. And that's the other thing too, is that even for the people whose homes were in safe areas or still have power, it's like things like, so many schools burned down. They're trying to figure out, where do our kids go? How do we function? There's very few lives that I feel like are untouched by the magnitude of this fire.
Sparrow, you have two young sons. How do you explain this to them? Do they have any concept of what's going on?
My 21-month-old is just fine. And, that's sort of the beauty of them, is that, they remind us that life goes on, and he's smiling and wonderful. But yeah, my 5-year-old has a lot of questions, and, I can feel him being anxious and asking questions of like, is there another fire? Is it okay? Before he's going to sleep at night, he's asking me like, are we okay? There's no fires, right? So we're
Right.
talking through this stuff, but he's definitely aware enough and mature enough to have an idea that this was scary and this was big.
He'll
I'm just
probably
very
always remember that.
excited.
It'd be one of his earliest memories, unfortunately, of catastrophe. Well, thank you, Sparrow Harrington, for joining us and telling your story. And we all wish you the best going forward.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Lisa.
This is Starvin closing this episode. Thanks for listening to these stories of survivors in the LA fire situation. Really just makes you think how fortunate you are not to have everything you know taken away from you in the blink of an eye through such a situation. So many wellness people, so many people in general have been affected, but we've obviously been focusing on folks we know in the wellness world. There are many ways to help if you would like to. The easiest one is to go to the Red Cross at redcross.org. You can even click under donate to the California wildfires directly. There is also a site for the LA Food Bank, which is lafoodbank.org/donate/disaster-relief. And there are several GoFundMe's. One is for the wildfire relief in general, and the other is a specific GoFundMe for Catherine at B. Rosie, who was on our episode, who lost everything, every part of her business in this fire. I will list them all in the show notes. And thank you again for listening and for any help you can give. these folks who've had such a tough time. See you all soon.